Have you ever looked at your relationship history and felt like you were watching the same movie over and over again? Different actors, different locations, maybe a different soundtrack, but the exact same plot? Maybe you always find yourself chasing people who are emotionally unavailable. The harder you try to get close, the further they pull away. Or maybe it's the opposite. Maybe you meet someone kind, stable, and loving, but instead of feeling safe, you feel bored or suffocated, and you find a way to sabotage it just to feel a spark of chaos again. It's easy to look at these patterns and think, I just have bad luck, or all the good ones are taken, or the darkest thought of all, there is something wrong with me. I need you to hear this right now. There is nothing wrong with you. You are not broken, but you are conditioned. Most of the love you accept today was shaped by the love you received or didn't receive when you were too young to understand it. Welcome to Cypress Speaks, the healing mind. Today, we are going to uncover the invisible script that has been directing your love life. We are going to look at how childhood experiences create adult patterns, why we are addicted to familiar pain, and most importantly, how to finally break the cycle. Let's take a breath and go back to the beginning. Imagine the mind of a child. When we are born, we are blank slates. We don't know what love is. We don't know what safety is. We have to learn it, and our teachers are the people who raise us. As children, we are biologically wired to attach to our caregivers. Our survival depends on it. If they smile, we feel safe. If they leave, we feel terror. Because we are so dependent, we absorb everything they do as truth. If your home environment was chaotic, loud, and unpredictable, your developing brain didn't say, this is unhealthy. Your brain said, this is what love looks like. If your home was cold, silent, and distant, your brain learned love is something you struggle for in isolation. This is where the script gets written. Let's say you had a parent who was inconsistent. One moment they were hugging you, giving you praise, and making you feel like the center of the universe. The next hour they were screaming or ignoring you completely because they were dealing with their own demons. As a child, you learned that love is a gamble. You learned that you have to be hyper-vigilant, constantly scanning the room for changes in mood. You learned that if you perform well enough, or if you are quiet enough, maybe you can earn the good version of them. Fast forward 20 years, you are an adult now. You meet someone who is consistent, reliable, and texts you back on time, and your brain rejects it. It feels wrong. Why? Because there is no anxiety. There is no chase. To your subconscious mind, if you aren't fighting for it, it isn't love. So you ignore the stable partner and you find yourself attracted to someone who runs hot and cold because of that anxiety, that butterflies in the stomach panic. To you, that feels like chemistry, but it's not chemistry, it's familiar. This brings us to the concept of attachment styles. You've probably heard these terms buzzing around the internet, but let's really break down what they look like in real life. First, we have the anxious attachment. This usually comes from that inconsistent parenting we just talked about. If this is you, your adult relationships probably feel like a roller coaster. You are the fixer. You are the one who overfunctions. When your partner pulls away or gets quiet, your nervous system goes into overdrive. You think, they're leaving me. What did I do wrong? You might double text, you might over-apologize, or you might over-explain yourself. You accept crumbs of affection because you are starving, and you believe that if you just love them hard enough, they will finally change. Then there is the avoidant attachment. This often comes from caregivers who were emotionally unavailable, dismissive, or intrusive. Maybe you were told, stop crying, or you're too sensitive. Maybe you were forced to grow up too fast and take care of yourself. As an adult, intimacy feels dangerous to you. It feels like a loss of control. When someone gets too close or starts demanding emotional vulnerability, you shut down. You might label them as needy. You value your independence above everything else. You might be the person who ghosts or the person who keeps relationships surface level because letting someone in means giving them the power to hurt you. And of course, there is the disorganized style, a painful mix of both. This usually stems from trauma or fear. The person who was supposed to protect you was also the person you were afraid of, so you want love, but when you get it, you panic. It's a constant push and pull. Come here, I need you, followed immediately by, go away, you're not safe. Do you see yourself in any of these? It can be heavy to admit. It can feel embarrassing to realize that you've been acting out a script written by a scared little kid. But awareness is the only way out. The hardest truth we have to swallow is this. As adults, we do not recreate what is healthy. We recreate what is familiar. The brain prioritizes safety, and to the primitive brain, familiarity equals safety. Even if the familiar thing is pain, even if the familiar thing is abandonment, at least you know the rules of abandonment. At least you know how to survive it. Happiness, true intimacy, vulnerability, that is unknown territory. And to your subconscious, the unknown is terrifying. This is why you might sabotage a good relationship. If you are used to chaos, peace feels boring. It feels suspicious. You find yourself waiting for the other shoe to drop. And if it doesn't drop, you might unknowingly kick it over yourself, just to return to the chaos you know how to navigate. So, how does this show up in the day-to-day? It's not always dramatic. It shows up when you don't speak your needs because you learned that having needs makes you a burden. It shows up when you lie about how you feel to keep the peace because silence was the only way to survive your childhood home. It shows up when you forgive someone who hurt you without them even asking for forgiveness because you learned that you have to tolerate bad behavior to keep people around. You learn to trade your authenticity for attachment. You learn to cut off parts of yourself to fit into the spaces others left for you. Trauma taught you survival. It made you adaptable. It made you tough, but it didn't teach you connection. So here is the million-dollar question. How do we fix it? How do we rewrite a script that has been etched into our neural pathways for decades? It is not easy and it is not quick, but it is entirely possible. It is the work of reparenting. Step 1 is what we are doing right now. Radical awareness without judgment. You have to catch yourself in the act. When you feel that intense, frantic spark with someone new, pause. Ask yourself, is this attraction or is this my trauma recognizing a familiar pattern? When you feel the urge to run away from a nice partner, pause. Ask yourself, am I actually incompatible with them or am I just terrified of being seen? Stop judging your reactions. Stop saying, I'm so stupid for feeling this. Instead say, I recognize this feeling. This is my anxious child trying to protect me. Step 2 is journaling your triggers. You cannot heal what you cannot name. When you get triggered, maybe your partner is late coming home and you spiral into panic. Trace it back, close your eyes. When was the first time you felt this specific flavor of fear? Was it when you were 7, waiting for a parent to pick you up? Connect the dots. Once you realize the reaction belongs to the past, not the present, it loses some of its power over you. Step 3 is the hardest, acting opposite to the impulse. If your impulse is to chase, you must learn to sit in the discomfort of waiting. If your impulse is to run, you must learn to stay and communicate, I am feeling overwhelmed. This is going to feel wrong. It's going to feel unnatural. That's how you know you are growing. You are literally building new neural pathways. You are teaching your nervous system that it is safe to do things differently. And finally, step 4, reparenting your inner child. This sounds abstract, but it is very practical. There is a part of you that is still small, still scared, and still waiting for someone to come save them. You are that someone. Talk to yourself with the gentleness you deserved back then. When you make a mistake, don't berate yourself. Say, it's okay, we are learning, you are safe. Set boundaries. Boundaries are how we protect that inner child. Learning to say no is a profound act of self-love. It tells your inner child, I will not let people hurt us anymore. I am in charge now.
Healing isn't about becoming a different person. It's about becoming who you were before the world told you who you had to be. You don't need to blame your parents or your past. Blame keeps us stuck in victimhood. Understanding sets us free. They were likely acting out of their own unhealed wounds, passing the baton of trauma down the line. You have the power to stop that runner. You have the power to put the baton down. You can learn a new language of love, one that isn't based on earning or performing or hiding, one that is based on safety, respect, and being seen. It takes time. You will stumble. You will fall back into old patterns. That is okay. Forgive yourself quickly and get back on the path. You are not broken. You are simply a masterpiece that was painted over. It's time to scrape away the layers and reveal the art underneath. Thank you for spending this time with me on Cypress Speaks, The Healing Mind. If this conversation resonated with you, if you felt seen, please consider subscribing to the channel. We are building a community of people who are brave enough to look inward. Remember, your heart is learning a new language. Be patient with it. I'll be here to help you speak it.